Hi, good night. I'm very happy to be with Nevo Eshkol, a master of short stories wrapped in his novels, a master of creating characters, a writer of love, friendship, and secrets we all hide, a writer of solitude, a decent human being that gives voice to strangers and losers, even to enemies, wishing to end the suspicion of one another. And I have to tell you, after having a book of the writers in Israel, I now know I need to write a new one, including Eshkol Nevo, because he's part of the younger generation after Amos Oz, Aleph Bet Yoshua, and David Grossman. Eshkol, it's a pleasure to be with you. I would like to start talking in this interview about your childhood. I know people come to seek you to get answers of everything, when you really would like to say, I don't know. I hope that we can make this space a personal one, a space where we can understand what drives you to be the man and the writer you are, the scandal monger, I know that's your favorite word, that lives inside yourself. I know David Bowie taught you never to repeat yourself as an artist, and it's true. Each one of your books is completely different in form and content. But I do find a leitmotif in your books, the constant need to have a second opportunity in life, a trip to have a total transformation, a new land, maybe Argentina, Uganda, Israel for the Russians, or places where we can start again and reinvent ourselves. Why is your obsession with those turning points, with second opportunities? It seems that in your books there is no story without the possibility to change. So let's talk about those turning points in your life, those moments that inspire the need to reinvent yourself, to change the scene.
Muy bien. Buenas noches. A mí me gusta mucho hablar en español y puedo leer y puedo entender, pero para conferencia creo que es mejor que vamos a hablar en inglés o Spanglish. I miss Latin America so much. In Mexico specifically, in Guadalajara, more specifically, I estuve en FIL Guadalajara 2 veces y fue increíble. I really, ojalá que puedo visitar México en el año próximo, realmente, no via Zoom. So I really, Latin America has a very important place in my life. It's a passion for me. It's a second home. Spanish is, aparte de hebreo, la más bonita lengua en el mundo. And so I'm happy about this meeting, but I really wish that we would meet in person next year in FIL. I would definitely come. Okay, so you asked me about childhood and about turning points in life, and I think there's a connection between them. That one of the reasons I like to write about turning points, about second opportunities, about restarting, about Neuland, about a new country, is that my childhood was full of these occasions, because as a child, by the age of 18, I have moved at least 12 or 13 different houses, 5 cities, 2.5 countries. Every 2 or 3 years, we would move. I'm now talking from Jerusalem. We lived in Jerusalem, then we left Jerusalem, then we came back to Jerusalem. I'm a Jerusalemite, but actually I'm also feel very close to Haifa, to Tel Aviv, to Holon, to the United States. So as a child, I moved a lot, and then actually you are forced to restart. So on one hand, I was sad to move. I remember leaving Jerusalem. I'm now in Jerusalem, so I remember the feeling of leaving Jerusalem at the age of 15. My heart was broken. I almost rebelled against my parents. I told them, look, I'm not coming. It's too much. I am too attached to this place, to the city, to my friends. You can go back to Haifa. I'm staying. Eventually, I came with them, but it was like a breakup. It was painful on one hand. On the other hand, it was a restart. I could invent myself. I could tell a new story about myself, have a new angle about life. Every 2 or 3 years, I got a new angle about life. So maybe this is one of the reasons that I write about turning points, that I have a lot of angles in my books. It's another theme in my books. Maybe you recognized it. There's always another angle, and this is also connected to something about my parents. Do you want me to tell you about my parents a little bit?
Yes, I was gonna ask you exactly, why did they move so much?
My father switched all sorts of jobs, and kind of we followed him. But there's something interesting about my parents I just recently understood. And I'm on the age of 50, and I still understanding things about my parents. So they went to see. There's now a movie adaptation based on one of my books, on 3 floors, Tres Pisos.
Tres Pisos.
See, there's a movie adaptation of.
Which I really recommend. It's fantastic.
Gracias. So the Italian director Nanni Moretti did a movie adaptation, and it was in the Cannes Festival, and now it's in all over the world. I'm actually flying tomorrow to Sofia, Bulgaria, because there's a screening of the film. Anyway, my parents went to see the movie, okay, together. Now, one of my clear childhood memories is that whenever my parents would go to a movie or to a theater play or read a book, they will always have a completely different opinion about what they saw. They would never agree. They're a wonderful couple. They just celebrated their 55th anniversary. There's a good example of marriage life and sustainable love, but they never agree about art. So this is how I grew up. There were always 2 opinions in the house, 2 angles, 2 ways of thinking about things. And I think just recently I understood that this has completely affected the way I think about things. I always, when I start writing a book, even if I have a narrator who is kind of authoritative and knows what he's talking about, I feel this urge to give another angle. Maybe there's another way to tell this story. Maybe there's another way to think about this. Maybe we can look at this from the eyes of the enemy or the eyes of the person who is not us. And so maybe I should thank my parents for disagreeing all over my childhood. Always 2 different opinions in the house. Maybe it's affected my writing.
Well, I know terminal is the word you hate the most. So now I understand why. And that need to reinvent yourself. But there's also a lot in a name. And your name is very, very strange. Your grandfather was Levi Eshkol, the 3rd Prime Minister of Israel. And I know he died before you were born, but he inherited in you a legacy. You carry his name. His last name became your first name. So I know that sugar cubes make you invoke his spirit, but what is there in your name? What letters write the story of your life having Eshkol in your name?
Okay, I'm willing to answer this question only if you explain to me what is Cherem. What does it mean?
Cherem.
Cherem.
But it's Cherem.
What does it mean?
I come from a Syrian great-grandfather, and I'm not sure where it came from, but I know in Israel it's Shrem.
Oh, so you're Silvia Cherem, actually.
Exactly. That would be in Israel.
Okay.
And if I would have, I'll tell you something. And if I would have the name of my grandmother, which was the tradition, my name would be horrible. I'm so happy it's not the name I have. Her name was Sabut. So I would be
Sabut.
Sabut Shrem. And I'm very happy I'm Silvia. So I don't carry
Okay.
that legacy. So let's talk about yours.
Okay, yeah, I'm named after my grandfather, who was the prime minister. I didn't know him, so I cannot say that his presence affected my life, but definitely I would say through my mother, the fact that I grew up in a political family, a very politically involved and caring, caring for the country. It definitely affected my life. I was going to demonstrations since the age of 6, and now, recently I've been taking my daughters on my shoulders to demonstrations in Israel the same way my parents would take me on their shoulders. So it's a political family, and also maybe also this legacy of kind of a Yiddish storytelling, like the way that storytelling. My grandfather, as a politician, he was known to tell the right story at the right time in order to solve a political issue or to negotiate. He would tell it in a very warm and humoristic way, and then people would ease up, and then maybe they could reach an agreement. So maybe this legacy of this love for stories. Now, the literal meaning of the word Eshkol actually is even more fascinating, and also of Nevo, because Eshkol is a bunch of grapes or a bunch of bananas, a bunch of fruits. So if you think about democratic writing or multiple angles we talked before, or that there's not one truth, there's always many ways to tell a story. So Eshkol is actually embodies this concept, because there's not, if you talk about Eshkol, you talk about a bunch of things. It's not one singular dictator. And Nevo is even more fascinating. This is a Hebrew name my parents chose because they didn't want the diaspora names they had. They had Shkolnik and Frischberg, and they wanted a new Hebrew name, a restart. You were mentioning restarting. So they wanted a restart. We are the new kind of Jew, and so we have a Hebrew name. So they chose the word Nevo. Now, Nevo is the mountain which Moses stands on, Mount Nevo, and he sees the promised land, knowing that he will never get there.
All right.
So nostalgia and being homesick and being full of deseos, full of desires and full of wishes, and this constant craving for intimacy or for something that you cannot have, or maybe you want to have. It's actually also embodied in my name. So
Everything
maybe
is there.
everything is there.
Everything is
It's
there.
embarrassing because you want to think that you have a free choice, but actually
Exactly.
it was all a
planned.
prophecy. Yeah.
And were you an only kid? What type of kid were you? I think of you as Yanai, one of your characters, an imaginative kid, always making stories, always believed to be a liar. Was that you?
No, actually not. I think it's a combination. First of all, I was always, in a way, the new kid in the block or in the class or in the school. So this is a very special experience. You have to observe a lot when you are the new kid, because you are learning a language. The same way I'm studying Spanish for now for a couple of years. But even when I moved from Haifa, it's a city in Israel, to Jerusalem, the Jerusalemites, they were speaking a different kind of Hebreo. It was a totally different dialect. So I had to, I remember it very clearly. I was not speaking for at least a couple of weeks. I was just listening, observing, learning. What are the new rules? And this kind of this place of the one who is observing, I think, kind of it's also part of what we do as writers. We observe. We are not. Sometimes we look at our society, at families, at the human soul. Have this kind of point of view with a bit distance, but yet involved. I was really into sports, and I'm still into sports. I play tennis, I run, and as a child, I was a lot into this kind of activity, and I was always in love, always since the age of 6. Even through the dark years of 9, 8, 10, where usually boys are not in love with girls, I was in love. So this was also a crucial element when I was growing up. A lot of heartbreaks, and sometimes I got lucky. But this is, I think, the child I was. I was reading a lot, but I was not writing. More reading than writing. You know what? I just got a very exciting WhatsApp 2 days ago. You know how it's funny that the human memory works. Okay, I get a WhatsApp from one of my readers in Israel, and she sends me. I look for it. Maybe it'd be hard to show it via Zoom, but I'll send it later that you can see it personally. She found the first story I ever published.
Wow.
I was not 9 years old. It was 1980. There was a newspaper called Devar Liladim. It was a paper for children, and they were offering this opportunity to send short stories. And it turns out that I sent a short story to this newspaper when I was 9 years old, and it was published. Now, I do not remember it. I actually completely forgot it. But I'm reading the story, and it's strange to say I'm recognizing my style. It was it was there. It's not a good story, okay? I sent it in the family WhatsApp, and so all my daughters I have tres hijas, niñas, 18, 15 y 10. So I sent it the family WhatsApp, and they all wrote like, "Father, you have improved since this story." So it turns out that I was writing, but I remember more reading than writing.
I find Aunt Noah someone that's very important in your life. That woman that gave you your identity, your freedom, the courage to be who you wanted to be. Were you doubtful that you were going to become a writer?
Actually, when I think of it, I owe my development as an artist to 3 women that were very crucial in this process. You don't understand it, I think, until you are grown up enough to recognize it. But first was my aunt Noah, who was the only artist in the family. She was a choreographer, and also she made wall carpets. One of them is the cover for my Israeli version of La Última Entrevista. So she was my model for what is an artist, how does an artist live, what kind of passion does he bring to his work, what kind of sacrifices it demands him to make. So this was Aunt Noah. And then I met my wife. We met when I was 23 or 24, and on our second date, she told me, "My dream is to marry a writer." So I had no choice, actually. And I beyond that, which is actually, this is what she said. You know, by the way, our third date was in going to listen to David Grossman reading from his book, it's called in Hebrew, be the knife for me, Shitili Asakin. So that was our third date, very, very literary from our side. And so she not only that she kind of announced that, she was very supportive in the process, believing in me. Maybe if you ask her today, she would say she regrets it. She understands what kind of a price the wife of a writer pays, but I owe her a lot. And the third one was my first teacher. I went to a creative writing course when I was 28, 29.
That's when you started.
Writer.
You started late. You started late.
Yeah, I'm a late bloomer. I was writing a lot of things, letters and poems, but not stories, not cuentos cortos, definitely not novelas. So I went to a creative writing course. The teacher is not known in Mexico and in the world. Her name is Yael Adaya. She was my first teacher. She's the one that kind of told me in many ways, without saying it specifically, that go on, that you have something important to say. You can be a writer if you put yourself into it. So actually, yeah, three women that without them, I'm not sure I would be talking with you about my Spanish translations in FIL.
I guess it's love and friendship that's in your life, because in every one of your book, you're really looking for your friends. I guess you have many friends that you've lost through changes in your life. And then, well, we see them all going in very deeply inside of your novels.
Actually, I will share with our viewers that there's in one of my books, there's this description of Hagai Carmeli, who is disappearing.
I have to tell you that there was a Hagai Carmeli in Mexico. I met him at the end of the 70s.
So now I know what happened with him.
He was a sheliach in Mexico.
Okay, the problem is solved. The riddle is over. But of course, it's not the real name. We had a friend. We are a bunch of friends coming from Haifa, and we are four friends, still friends today, friends of La Simetria de los Deseos. And there's one of us, the fifth friend, who actually disappeared. And I'm writing about it a lot because it's kind of a mystery. And the amazing story is that while I was writing about Hagai Carmeli, who is not the real name, because I didn't want to write the real name, I was writing about this lost friend. And then I was invited, and I had someone specific in my mind. Then I was invited to a book tour in the United States, Estados Unidos, and there was un festival, una feria, and there was an email list. And in the email list, I saw his name. I haven't seen him for 12 years. He disappeared. Nobody knew what happened to him. And I see his name in the email list. So I write him un correo and say, is it you? Is that you? And if so, do you want to meet? Because I'm in Nueva York and we can meet for coffee. And he answers, yes, I'm here. Let's meet. So while I'm writing about this imaginary friend, I'm actually walking to meet him, and we had this conversation. Of course, there was a story behind this. It's not. It's a personal story, but so I won't tell it. But sometimes you write about things, you imagine them, and then real life. Probably it happened to you also. Real life can be even more surprising than fiction.
But you did find him. You did find him.
I find him, but in a way, he always wants to get lost. This is what he wants. He doesn't want to be at the same place at the same time. This is, I guess, his destiny. He's lost again. I found him and I lost him again.
Well, you said that your wife regrets a little being married to a writer. And I love that phrase where you're telling that you're a story hunter, that you have a posterior heart where you feel pain and solitude, and that you have a gland of sadness in your diaphragm, and that you write to survive, to overcome constant contradictions, the obsession of being focused on yourself, that a writer is always lost and troubled and living constant depressions, but he protects his self with stories he invents, with nostalgia, with that loneliness he seeks to live in the skin of others. I really don't think that you're someone egotistical. You really go to empathize with the other, to give voice to the family, to the marriage, to the country, to war. So do you really conceive yourself like that? And I know that you studied to be a psychologist. And after reading your books, I see that you're one of your greatest assets is that you can give character, life, voice, real identity with very precise detail to your characters. I think that is one of your things. So let's talk about who is the writer and how you tend to write about others.
First of all, it's frustrating that I can't ask you the same question, because I feel that as a writer, you understand deeply what I'm talking about. So promise me that when your book is published in Hebrew, I will be your moderator and I will be asking the questions, which is actually what I prefer doing. I'm more a listener than a talker, generally speaking, generalmente. And I think what leads me as a cazador de cuentos, what leads me is this curiosity, the curiosity to listen to new stories, and the curiosity to be what I'm not when I'm writing. I'm not really interested in telling the truth, even when I pretend to write an autobiography like in La Última Entrevista. It's not. It's full of fiction. I'm not interested in writing about myself, and I find the deepest pleasure in being someone that I'm not. Whether it's someone who is religious, I'm not religious. I'm a secular Jew, but I really like to write about people who are religious or they became religious. I'm fascinated by this process. I like to write about old people and about very young children. And I love writing as a woman, because I'm not. And being a woman while I'm writing is such a challenge, and such a fascinating challenge. And always when I begin writing a woman, like in Tres Pisos, I have those monologues of women. I always have this sense of maybe it's too much. Maybe I can't do it. But then I dive into this soul of this woman, of Hani, of Dvora, and I become them while writing. And this is maybe the biggest joy, this able to see the reality from the eyes of someone who is not you, really be him. It's kind of, I feel that it expands my experience in life. I can't be a woman, but I can be a woman while I'm writing. I can't travel to South America or wherever I like. Specifically now I can't. In the last 2 years it's impossible, but I can spend 4 years writing Los Destinos Invisibles every morning, traveling in South America and in Argentina. The book ends in Argentina. So I can, through writing, I can expand my experience. And I think if you think of it, it's also the same thing about reading. Because when I read a book by Garcia Marquez, Cien Años de Soledad, or by Vargas Llosa or Julio Cortázar, if I read books by them, I expand myself. They think different than me. They have this Macundo is not the place I grew up in, but when I finish the book, I kind of I'm my concept of life is wider, is more democratic. So then this is why I read, and this is the same reason that I guess the reason I write and the reason I read are not that different. It's the same feeling that life is limited. We are limited in our own lives. We have boundaries, we have responsibilities, we have deadlines, we have COVID regulations, but writing is complete freedom. I can go wherever I like, be whoever I want to be, and experience, and sometimes an experience I did not have the courage to experience in real life. So this is writing for me, that the complete freedom. Someone asked me, the conferencia I had before you was with people from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the future ambassadors of Israel. And they asked me, would you agree to change a book of yours for political reasons? Like if a publishing house in another country would tell you, look, this is not good for our public, would you agree to change? And I said, no way. There were, actually, I was asked at least 3 times to do this, and I said, no way. If you don't want, don't publish my book, because for me, writing is the complete freedom. This is liberty. It can't be put in a box, not for political reason, not even for politically correct reason, for what would like the kind of the American politically correct thinking. I do not accept it. It's not. I would not write or not write something because it's not politically correct. So anyway, this, for me, it's freedom, freedom and the expanding of your experience.
What triggers your imagination? Is it really true that when you finish a book, you really have fear of losing your creativity? That you really feel solitude, absence, anxiousness, and because you really reinvent yourself with each one of them?
Look, it's getting better. It's getting there. I know that you also published a lot of books. Some things do not get better. Still, when I published the book in Israel, not translations in Israel, it's a very challenging emotional experience. I can lose my voice, I can get sick, I feel exposed, I feel embarrassed. It doesn't really matter if the book is a huge bestseller. Still, there's something overwhelming. Like, I feel that my soul cannot handle this experience of publishing a book in my own country, even though my books are received very well here, and I'm a very lucky writer in that sense, but still it's too much. So this does not improve. I published my 10th book now in Israel, 20 years of writing. It's a huge success here, and still it was a very painful process to publish it. But what did improve throughout the years is this thing that you were asking about. You were asking about what happened after a book is published, what happens between books. I think when I began writing, every time a book of mine was published, I had this fear that this will not happen again. I would not find the energy, the creativity, the inspiration to go through this process again. And actually now I know it will happen again. I know it's only a matter of time. I'm a very hungry person. If I have been hungry for 20 years, I guess I will remain hungry until the day I die. I'm hungry to hunt stories, to meet people, and to invent alternative realities. So now I'm not writing. I'm doing a lot of projects with musicians, a lot of I'm on the stage a lot, usually with musicians doing this cooperation, and I'm not worried. I know it's not going to happen next week. I feel it in my body, but I know that it's going to happen eventually. I'm not pushing it. I think I have learned not to push it and not to get stressed from the fact that it takes time.
What are you doing
books.
with music? What are you doing with music? Because I find music as a very important part of your stories. I can almost sing with David Bowie, listen to Bob Dylan, recognize Strauss, Chopin, or klezmer music in each one of your books. What happens with music and you?
Wow, it's such a joy talking with someone who read my books so seriously and fun, and recognizes the themes. I wanted to be a musician. That's the truth. Here I'm confessing to all the FIL, the Guadalajara book fair. This is what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a rock musician, play in a band, preferably the drummer. I actually I know I learned drumming for 2 times in my life. I can hold the rhythm, but I'm not good enough, and I'm not good enough as a musician. And it's like kind of I had to settle for writing, and as a result, I try to do music with my writing. I try to think of a book as a musical event, it's something with rhythm, with different kind of tones, different kind of voices. I feel that I'm writing a symphony when I'm writing a book. I'm writing it, and I'm also, in a way, I'm the one performing it. So a lot of decisions that we make editing the book are with my editor. Many times I tell her, look, it's not the right music. This sentence is out of the music of the paragraph. So let's take it out. Or she says, why are you insisting on this sentence? I said, because of the music. I need him because of the music. So I have music in my stories, and also I put specific music song. I put specific songs, specific albums, because I guess this is my experience of life. Everything is music, even if you are listening to the birds 5 a.m. Outside of your country, of your house, they're making music. And even a traffic jam, you can think of a traffic jam, which we have a lot in Israel and in Mexico City, as I remember. It's kind of a musical event if you think of it. So I'm definitely into this. And in my new novel in Hebrew, it's not yet translated, but actually music even plays a part in the plot. It's kind of the formative event. It moves the plot in a way. And as I said, I'm almost 2 nights a week. I'm performing with musicians on stage. I don't
Are
play
you
the
the
drums.
drummer?
No, I'm not the
Are you
drummer.
the
I
drummer?
found a way to. I found that's the funny thing. I find a way to get accepted to the band without being the drummer, because I'm a lousy drummer. So I read my stories. So we do this kind of a duet between music and stories, and they let me be there. I'm accepted. So I'm
Well,
kind of
you're in the scene, and there's also music, there's friendship, there's love, and there's secrets in your stories. I guess who is trustworthy to be someone that knows your secrets in your life? I know it's in your books, but maybe you have someone. And yes, you wrote, now I know who Dikla was, that you write in the last interview, you write of your teacher. I didn't know that it was her that pushed you to believe in yourself.
You ask about La Vida Escondida, the secret life. I think it's always a story always begins with a secret. Something in life, something happens, and you do not completely understand it or get the full picture of it. Sometimes someone is not telling you the whole story. I guess maybe it also what drives you to writing. Something it can be like the most simple example is I broke up with a girlfriend when I was 25, which is a nice diplomatic way to say that she actually left me. And one of the reasons I wrote Homesick, my first novel, was to understand why we broke up, to understand the secret. Like I felt that there was a secret there. There's something I still do not understand. Even the years have passed. So I kind of started writing to solve this. And then this Los Destinos Invisibles, this imaginary country in Argentina, this very strange historical story about the Jews trying to have some kind of autonomy in Argentina in the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century. It sounded like fiction to me when I first heard about it, and I have to write about it in a way. Or La Simetría de los Deseos. People are writing their own deseos on pieces of paper. What is written in these pieces of paper? It's a secret. Nobody knows. So if it's a secret, and so I want to write about it. It's always something that is not completely discovered or revealed that I want to write about. My new book in Hebrew started from something I saw in the newspaper. I read the article, and I thought to myself, they're not telling the truth. This is not the whole story. I'm sure. It's something. Someone is hiding something here. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to write about it, and I'm going to tell the story as the way I think of it. So it can be riddles in your own soul. It can be secrets in the world, but definitely it's a drive. It's a drive that triggers me. The best way to get me writing about something is not telling me a secret. It can be a very manipulative thing, but it works. I have a secret, but I won't tell you. Okay, so I will invent my own story about your secret, like in Los Amores Solitarios. What is a mikveh doing in a Russian immigrant neighborhood? When I saw it in real life, I thought there is a scandal here, but when I tried to find out what happened, nobody wanted to talk about it. So I said, okay,
So you invent.
if I was a journalist, I would definitely go into investigating it. But if I'm a novelist, I would invent my story and try to imagine what led to this crazy situation of this Jewish ritual bath in the middle of a Russian immigrant neighborhood, which are completely not interested in it from any angle. So this is what I do. I kind of imagine to solve secrets.
Time is running, and I don't want to leave behind two themes that I think are very important. Holocaust, which it's like a backdrop in your stories, but you really don't focus on it. You tend to evade it, to forget the bulky book again and again, but it's there. And also politics and the army. I know when you travel, the people want to know what your points of view are about politics, and they want to push you to talk about that. So I would like to understand. I see it in your books. I see in La Simetría de los Deseos, in Los Destinos Invisibles, that you propose that internal dilemma of Israel. You would really like to talk about the sidelines of politics, but you don't want to really go deep on the infuriated way of seeing politicians. But you really go into the perpetual trauma of being an Israeli, and of being an Israeli of a second generation, second or third, I don't know. But you're not the great creators of the state as your grandfather was, but you're someone trying to search for an identity. So let's talk about those two things before time comes over us.
Okay, so let's say something short about the Holocaust, and then maybe I will talk a bit longer about politics. I'm not a Holocaust novelist. I don't feel that this is one of the themes that I'm interested in. As a writer, I feel that Holocaust has been investigated thoroughly, deeply, beautifully by writers like David Grossman, Amir Gutfreund, Savion Lebrecht, by Jewish American writers. I come from a new generation I'm more my traumas and my post traumas are more connected to the Israeli wars and intifadas than to the Holocaust. So this is why I write about the Yom Kippur War, and I write about the Intifada, because this is I grew up with a father who was in the Yom Kippur War, and I was a soldier myself in the Intifada. These are my main experience. It doesn't to understand the Israeli psyche, you must understand the effect that the Holocaust still and has on the Israeli psyche. And in that sense, it's always present in my books, but it's not the main issue that I'm interested in writing about. I feel that other people could do it better than me. Now, politics is kind of a thing I have a lot of questions about it to myself, more than answers. I'm interested of writing about my society, about the Israeli society. It's a fascinating society. It's a paradise for storytellers. There's a lot of conflicts going on here. Out of this window, just out of this window, 500 meters, you would find the conflict between Palestinians and Jews, and you go to the left 500 meters, you find the conflict between Orthodox Jews and secular Jews. So Israel is full of conflicts, and I don't want to avoid that, and so I write about it, and I kind of dive into them, but I try to do it in a way which is human, empathetic, not propaganda kind of style, more in a literary way, like a personality or character focused. So this is the way I'm trying to address this issue, and of course sometimes I want my readers to for instance, in Los Amores Solitarios, I want my readers to know an Arab character from a different angle that they usually know Arab characters, and I'm proud of bringing Arab and Palestinian voices into the center, the heart of the Israeli literary scene. But it's always about human beings. It's not about agendas and politics. On the other hand, I became really political the last 2 years, but it's not in my books, not directly. I'm writing political articles. I was speaking in demonstrations. I don't know if people in Mexico know about it, but we had for 12 years the same prime minister, and he was accused in corruption, and he was refusing to leave his office, even though this is our political tradition, and even though this is what he should have done in order to, this is the kind of an example that a leader should give. And a lot of people in Israel became afraid that we are on the way to lose our democracy and become this kind of a, I don't know, Erdogan-like, or in Hungary, it's kind of a democracy which is not really a democracy. So we were out in the streets, and I was all in. I was involved. I was talking. I was walking. It was a year of demonstrations in Jerusalem, a kilometer from here. I gave whatever I could. I had this decision with myself. I'm willing to pay the price. I want my daughters to live in a democratic country, and even if I lose readers, and even if I get criticism, and even if we lose, if we won't achieve what we want to achieve, I have to give it a try. So I became completely political, using what I know to do. I know to write, and I can use words. So eventually, actually, the demonstrations were successful. We have a new government now, a new prime minister. At the first time of the Israeli history, we have Arabs and Jews at the same government, which is unprecedented. It's unbelievable in a way. And I'm hopeful about my country in a way that I wasn't hopeful, at least for 25 years, since our prime minister was killed, was murdered, Yitzhak Rabin. The first time for 25 years, I'm a bit hopeful. Still, there's a lot of work to do, and I feel as a writer, I have, I wouldn't say responsibility, but I would say ability. I can use my ability to, when other people are afraid to speak, and a lot of artists are afraid. I'm not afraid. So I can use this ability to speak, and the fact that I'm not. I grew up in a political in a family. This is how I was educated. You're not afraid to say what you think. So I use this in a way, and I guess it will be like that now. So I will be very political when it comes to the emotions and speaking and article, and I will write political. You can live like. I think it can do this. Remain a writer and still having a political voice. This is what I guess I want to do.
Well, it's been more than a pleasure. I think it's almost over. I wanted to do a last question, if it's possible. I want to know if you carry lucky charms in your life. Some of your characters have lucky charms that they have and take from one place to the other. Do you have something that you carry with yourself?
It's unbelievable. Do you have, by the way?
Lucky charms?
Yes.
Maybe the pictures of people I love or things like that I carry them all over. What are
Well,
yours?
I have one, and it's a beautiful way to finish our conversation because it's connected to America Latina. My first visit in America Latina was 1995 in Ecuador. And from the first moments in Ecuador, I felt a very strange feeling that this is my second home, this continent, this part of the world, and that I feel at home as if I'm walking in a dream, like a deja vu I had. And actually, I don't have this feeling in any other place in the world, even places I like Italy. I don't feel that Italy is my second home. And I feel this. It was that strange that I called my mother from it was before WhatsApp and Skype. I called her from a real phone booth, 1995. I said, "Mother, do we have raíces escondidos? Like, do we have in our families? It's something that you did not tell me because I'm here in South America and I feel that at home in a very strange way." So this happened in 1995. Since then, I've been en 9 veces en América Latina. Hace 3 años viajé a Panamá, and I really, ojalá that I can travel again. And my lucky item is a picture that was taken in Isla del Sol, on the border between Peru and Bolivia, Lago Titicaca. I'm standing with a family, with a Bolivian family, people living in this village, and we are standing together. And when you look at the picture, for the first 4 or 5 seconds, you cannot tell who is Bolivian and who is Israeli. I felt so, it was like this Casa de Familia. I felt so like comfortable with them. I kind of dressed like them, and so I like to look at it and to remember that I have a second home in the world. I have a second language I love speaking, and I'm lucky enough to have books in Spanish. So I wish the next time we meet, it will be in the real Guadalajara, maybe a walk in Mexico City to this wonderful park you have there, this huge public park. Yeah, that I can't forget. I had this unbelievable morning there that I would carry, I guess, for my whole life. So thank you for this conversation, but next time it's for real.
Thank you very, very much. And to the readers, please read Eshkol Nevo. All of his books, and the ones translated to Spanish, are fantastic, all of them. So start with La Simetría de los Deseos, Tres Pisos, Los Destinos Invisibles, The Last Interview, Los Amores Solitarios. They're all excellent, and I really recommend them. Thank you very much. Bye.